When thinking about horror, one tends to associate the topic with negative emotions. Fear, nausea, and worry are some of the feelings that this genre evokes in viewers or readers. However, these feelings are solely referring to the overt type of horror, where it is easy for the viewer or reader to pinpoint a specific monster or evil force. Nonetheless, as stated by English literature professor Anna Shahira, the female Gothic genre is a covert type of horror, where the scariness resides in the mundane realities that women must learn about the subjugation in worlds dominated by men. An example of a sensible topic to discuss is Argentina's Dirty War or La Guerra Sucia, that took place between 1976 and 1983, which is also referred to as the era of the Desaparecidos. However, the best way to know more about these dark times for the country is by asking those who have a personal connection to these terrors. Therefore, I asked two Argentinians with different connections to the situation some questions to learn more about the Dirty War.
Mi nombre es Juan Pablo Enis y soy argentino.
Mi nombre es Julieta y soy de Buenos Aires.
Cuando fue el golpe de Estado, que fue en el año 24 de marzo de 1976, yo tenía 10 años y me acuerdo perfectamente que todos los canales de televisión, que eran 4 o 5 canales en ese momento, emitieron la misma programación, que fue la nueva ley marcial que imponía el nuevo gobierno. Había una censura total en ese momento, entonces la poca información que había era en el extranjero. Digamos, en el interior del país había un par de periódicos que informaban, pero en general todos los medios de comunicación estaban controlados por el gobierno.
No estaba viva cuando le pasaba esto a mi país, pero me iba enterando y conociendo un poco más de la historia por familiares, conocidos y como las experiencias que ellos tenían sobre el tema. También yo creo que los medios de comunicación fueron también muy importantes para enseñarme a mí lo que había pasado.
La desaparición de personas en Argentina fue algo sistemático, organizado por el gobierno de facto. Entonces buscaban a la gente en la calle, en sus casas, en las fábricas, en sus lugares de trabajo, en las universidades. Iban con una lista de nombres, cogían a la persona, se la llevaban y nunca más se la veía. Esto no tenía ninguna habeas corpus, ni tampoco tenía no había nada legal, no, digamos, las personas desaparecían y ya ni sabía dónde estaban, y tampoco había ninguna respuesta o ningún lugar donde poder ir a reclamar dónde están estas personas. Desaparecido mi padre, desaparecido mi madre, desaparecido mis hijos, desaparecía cualquier tipo de personas. Todo esto fue organizado por el gobierno militar.
Lamentablemente en esta historia hay parte de la sociedad que describiría a las personas desaparecidas, a las víctimas de este tipo de violencia, las describirían como terroristas, como criminales. Y bueno, por lo que yo aprendí, no es así, que a cualquier estudiante le pasaba, a cualquier persona que encajaba al estereotipo de personas que ellos buscaban. Y la verdad, por lo que yo sé, no era así. Y por las experiencias que me contaron de personas que sí vivieron esa etapa y que les pasó esto, sé que no era así.
30.000 desaparecidos. No se sabe a ciencia cierta si fueron 30.000 o más.
Fueron 30.000 los desaparecidos. Cualquier persona que tenga un pensamiento que no encajaba con el que ellos tenían, con la imposición de lo que ellos querían para el país. Cualquier persona que ellos creían que era diferente o que tenía otra idea, era completamente, la apartaban y la desaparecían.
Las señoras que estaban en la Plaza de Mayo, la Plaza de Mayo es la plaza central de la capital federal, donde está el gobierno, frente al Palacio del Gobierno, unas personas que eran las madres de los hijos de desaparecidos, que se juntaban todos los jueves, se siguen juntando todavía a reclamar por sus hijos desaparecidos.
Son una figura muy importante y representativa para nuestro país. Son mujeres que representan la lucha y la fuerza porque pasaron por cosas muy tristes y horrores ellas y bueno, sus hijos, y hoy en día sus nietos, que muchos de ellos no saben y no conocen su identidad.
Cuando tenía 13 o 14 años, íbamos a un gimnasio del colegio que estaba enfrente a un lugar, que eran como unos garajes, antiguos garajes de autobuses, y un compañero mío, que los padres estaban muy informados al respecto, siempre me decía, aquí dentro hay gente que está desaparecida o gente que está en cautiverio y la están torturando. Y yo lo escuchaba, ignorante total en esa época, y lo escuchaba, decía, pero no lo sabía, así me estás contando esto, incrédulo. Y tiempo más adelante ese lugar que él me señalaba era uno de los centros de detención clandestina más importantes de la ciudad de Buenos Aires.
Escuché una historia de un piloto de avión que era parte del gobierno que contó que a él cada semana le decían que vaya a dar una vuelta por el río en el avión y lo que hacía esta gente era atar a las víctimas, drogarlas, dejarlas inconscientes, torturarlas y después tirarlas, vivas todavía.
In addition to a general awareness of the inhumane history of Argentina's dictatorship, there is more to discover about the topic, specifically how women were affected during the time and continue to be victims of the remains of a corrupt government, which led me to further analyze these ideas in my research paper, setting the female body ablaze as political resistance in Mariana Enríquez's short stories. Knowing more about the historical background, one can understand how hard it is to talk about such a tragic time, which is what Argentine author Mariana Enríquez experienced. Considering that she was 2 years old when the dictatorship began, and she was 8 to 9 years old when news of the atrocities committed by the military began to be revealed to the public, Enríquez experienced the dirty war firsthand. Having experienced these atrocities, it is impossible for Enríquez to not equate these horrors to those writing novels of the horror genre, which is why she writes horror stories, because it is the only medium capable of transmitting the experience. In the translated short story collections Things We Lost in the Fire and The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, Enríquez discusses topics such as the female body as political resistance, a dictatorship, scars, and women's abuse in a post-dictatorship society in Argentina. In The Lookout and Kids Who Come Back from the Dangers of Smoking in Bed, the author intertwines the history of the Desaparecidos with the idea of not being the same person anymore. In the latter, for instance, after the previously kidnapped young boys and girls most sexually abused reappear, they are not the children they used to be. In fact, Mechi, the investigator, felt then that they weren't children, that they formed a single organism. Besides being a direct parallel to the collective disappearance of the desaparecidos and how they are dehumanized to this concept, the supernatural or magical realistic aspect of this event also helps to criticize the real-life horrors women experience as influenced by a previously corrupt government. In the same short story collection, The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, Kids Who Come Back presents the example of Vanadis, who is a teenage girl who lives in the streets of Constitución, Argentina. In the process of finding Vanadis after her disappearance, it is known that weird guys forced her to allow one of them to fuck her, while the other one recorded her, manipulating her with this statement: she was nothing but a street kid. The girl's lack of resistance does not only show her desperation to obtain some money to be able to survive, but it also captures women's acceptance of their vulnerable position in society and helplessness. In Spiderweb, for instance, a woman claims to have seen a fire while being on a plane with her boyfriend, but he says she's crazy. However, it is interesting that Natalia's answer of showing facts to her boyfriend confirming the fire is that she does not want to look into it since she's not sure if the fire already happened or if it's going to happen. This unexpected answer defies any conventionality when calling women crazy, since the discussion about it tends to contend that women are as sane as men, or that their ideas are as logical as men's. Directly opposed to women's intuition, men tend to psychologically manipulate women by ignoring their perspectives and making them appear crazy or completely ignorant. This can be seen in the title story, Things We Lost in the Fire, where Enriquez describes how men would burn their wives with alcohol and a lighter while they were sleeping, but they would claim to the doctors that their wives had done it themselves. To give women some agency in a world where they do not have any, Enriquez manipulates gender roles and reverses them. In the title story, Things We Lost in the Fire, women are starting to do the work of men, burnings. Since they have always burned women, now they are burning themselves. It may seem odd, but it's just as the case of gaslighting. However, now, what men want women to believe of themselves is true. There's no place for women to be ridiculed in a scenario that does not include men. When women want to take back their power, nonetheless, they're criticized. Another way in which Enriquez manipulates gender roles is through reverse microaggressions. In No Flesh Over Our Bones, the woman becomes so obsessed with a skull to a point of wanting to be just as skinny as her. However, one can notice a commentary about the horror women experience in mundane activities, such as just looking fatter, where in this case the woman thinks this about her boyfriend and wants him out of the house. Therefore, the author criticizes men for calling women careless just for their physical appearance by making it seem illogical that a woman wants her boyfriend away from her, just as it is the case when men do it. Many would argue that Mariana Enríquez's short stories do not fall under the genre of horror because not all of them display actual monsters or ghosts. However, the real horror resides in the portrayal of everyday horrors women experience in the society of Argentina, which is filled with residuals of the war. Through profane and sinister descriptions of women's bodies and their abuse, the author aims to send chills to readers' bodies to make them feel uncomfortable, as women feel all the time, but people tend to ignore. Although their stories, which may seem universal, all of them take place in Argentina and illustrate the trauma of a society that still remains in the dark about the whereabouts of the thousands of people who disappeared in the Terry War.